harmless crush or emotional affair? My 30F boyfriend, 36M, and I have been together for almost 8 years. I'm generally a pretty secure person, but over the past few months I started to get bad vibes about my boyfriend's relationship with his new coworker. They spend all day together at work. She's more of his physical type than I am. She has a lot in common physically to a lot of his exes. I'm definitely the outlier. She had a similar upbringing to him, and she shares his obsessive love of music and bands. He started becoming glued to his phone and would text her constantly, even during dinners, even when we were cuddling and watching TV. I started feeling really jealous of their connection but didn't know how to bring it up with him. I've never been put in this position and I hate how it makes me feel. I tend to second-guess myself and invalidate my own feelings, so I'd been trying to tell myself I was just being insecure and paranoid. But after he texted me a couple of days ago telling me that he was going to a concert alone with her this weekend, I made a post on Reddit and the replies reassured me I wasn't being crazy or controlling, so I plucked up the courage to talk to him about how I was feeling. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with him going to the concert with her this weekend, and that I actually haven't been comfortable with their friendship, more specifically the constant communication, for a long time. I explained to him that my fear of seeming insecure caused me to bottle this up, because I didn't want to push him away. He was saying things like, "I had no idea you felt that way, I'm so sorry," but I wasn't getting the validation I needed. I wanted him to tell me that she wasn't anyone special, but he wasn't saying that. So I asked him point blank if he had feelings for her. That's when he confessed that he did. He said it was a harmless crush that he's had for a while now, but that he's keeping it to himself and hasn't acted physically upon it. Already I felt sick by this. I understand, harmless crushes are pretty normal in long-term relationships, even though I've never really experienced it myself. But I feel like the depth of their friendship, their constant communication, their plans to hang out alone etc., is completely inappropriate. I would have expected a trustworthy, dependable person to acknowledge they have a harmless crush and then distance themselves from the person they're crushing on, not go out of their way to continue to get closer to them. So then I did something I've never done in almost 8 years. I demanded to see his phone. He was muttering, "I can't believe this is happening," but eventually handed it to me. I scrolled back all the way to beginning of their texts, and fuck me there was significant other much of it, and started skimming through. A lot of the chat was mundane banter, but there were a few messages that stood out to me. In one message she asked him what he was doing. He said he was having dinner at particular restaurant with his friend X, when he was actually on a date with me. The most painful ones were the ones where they would say how much they loved spending time together that day and how much they missed each other. One of his messages to her said, "You're the easiest person to talk to in the world." At one point she was telling him how she had a date but was feeling nervous. He told her to not be nervous because she's amazing, she looks amazing, and that her date was the luckiest guy in the world. This was all I needed to see. Like, how can you call that a harmless crush? This is a full-blown emotional affair in my eyes. I asked him how he would feel if I was texting other men like this. I was so angry. And so heartbroken. He started crying saying that he didn't realize how bad it sounded, he didn't know what he was thinking, and that he's an idiot who just got carried away. I said it sounded like he doesn't love me very much if he thought it was okay to do this. He just became more and more hysterical, crying harder, saying he loved me and I was the love of his life etc. I packed a bag and left. He kept asking me what he needed to do to fix this and I told him I didn't know, that it was on him to figure that out. He's since texted me saying that he'll do anything. That he's sorry for getting caught up in a stupid crush, but he would never throw what we have away for anything or anyone. He's written long paragraphs about what he loves about me, how I'm the best thing that's ever happened to him and how he wants to grow old with me. I just don't know whether I can forgive this or move on from this. I know people say, crushes are normal, and part of me worries people will think I'm being immature for being so hurt by this, but this feels like a deep betrayal to me. He may not have physically cheated, but this is emotional cheating to me, and it feels worse. Every time I think about forgiving him, I picture that text message where he told her she was the easiest person to talk to in the world, and I feel devastated. I've always been his listener, his soother. He's an anxious person who gets very stressed out about life and people. He comes home and vents to me and I am always there to comfort him while he unloads on me. How the fuck can he say that about some other girl who isn't me? Goes to show. Always believe your gut. The whole time I was second-guessing myself, telling myself I was just being a jealous little bitch, but it turns out my suspicions were right. Anyway, I'd love to know what other people think. If you think I'm overreacting or if I'm justified feeling so hurt by this. What's the difference between a harmless crush and an emotional affair? Too long did not read. I was feeling insecure about my boyfriend's friendship with his new coworker. I finally asked him about it and he admitted he had a harmless crush on her, but the texts between them read like a full-on emotional affair. Edit. I want to give a huge thanks to everyone who is replying. I'm reading every response and I'm really grateful. I just wanted to add a few clarifications updates. I've met this coworker a couple of times. I didn't like her and didn't enjoy being around her. She wasn't nasty to me or anything, but when I would ask her a question she would give me brief one-word answers before turning to my boyfriend and turning the topic of convo to something that excluded me, like about work or about a band they both like. They seemed very comfortable together and had a lot of inside jokes that I didn't feel happy being around, feeling on the outside of. I got a bad vibe from her, but I dismissed it at the time as me just being extra sensitive because I felt so insecure about her. He has texted me saying that he's told her he's not going to the concert and that he won't be spending time with her outside of work. He later texted that he's blocked her completely on everything. But he'll still have to see her every day at work. I'm still working through how I feel, but right now I don't feel comfortable with that and I don't trust that they'll just magically become impersonal colleagues from this moment on. My suspicion is that he might think she's more compatible because of all the things they have in common, including this obsessive interest in music. A few weeks ago he even told me they were going to start a music project together. That's now been canned. I'm still processing and working out my feelings, and I'm not responding to any of his texts, but we plan to meet up Sunday and talk about it in person, and this is one of the things I will be asking him. We've discussed marriage before, it's not something either of us are interested in. We are also very happy being child-free. So us not being married or not having kids should not in itself be taken as proof of non-commitment. How is it harmless when he admits he has feelings for her? He told her he was out with a friend, when it was you he was with. And they went to a concert together, aka date. It would be hard to tolerate my boyfriend having feelings for someone else, and also works with. He tainted your relationship. Best of luck to you, whatever you decide to do. 1. It's an emotional affair if energy that should be directed towards you is going towards someone else. Yes, people in relationships have friends and hobbies. But if there's someone else getting the enthusiasm, flirting, support, mental energy, etc. that should be going to a partner, then it's an emotional affair. He's paying her all the compliments and romance that should be deposited to your account. 2. He's saying a lot, but what is he doing? What concrete actions is he willing to take to rebuild trust and redirect his focus on your relationship? Words without actions are just manipulations. Everyone draws their own line in the sand. There's no universal right answer here. Feelings can't be right or wrong. Yours are valid. Sorry about your troubles. 8 years is a long time to be together. Especially starting when young. I think more relationships go through stuff like this than people realize. I hope everything works out for you, whatever that means. Perhaps some space will put things into perspective. Good luck to you. So has he said he'll cut this girl off, or does he just keep love bombing you instead? The part where he asked you what he should do when he knows damn well what needs to be done made me so annoyed. He knows he has to stop talking to this girl. The only reason why he didn't mention that was because he doesn't want to. As soon as he realized he had a crush he should have told you, and cut the girl off. He did the complete opposite, and instead kept it from you and kept up the contact. How did he think continuing to talk with her and spend time with her would get rid of this crush? The difference between a harmless crush and an emotional affair for me is whether you act on it and try to get closer to the crush. If you just have the feelings, fine, that happens. If you start seeking the person out, spending time with them solo, confiding in them, and critically, lying to them about your relationship, as your boyfriend did when he wouldn't admit he was with you, that's an emotional affair to me. It sounds to me like this will take a lot of work to fix, specifically to repair your trust in him. It's up to you to decide, firstly, if he's sincere in wanting to do that work, and secondly, if you want to risk more of your life on this man. And if he was serious about fixing things, he'd be job hunting. You're right to feel betrayed, and this was a full-on emotional affair that probably would have turned physical after they went to the concert together. Question is, what are you going to do now? He is still going to spend most of his time at work with her around. My husband, 30 male, discarded me like trash after I was there for him, 31 female. My husband has had mental health issues and had a mental breakdown for which he was in the psych ward for around a year. During this time I visited him multiple times a week, bringing him his favorite foods and being supportive. Before that I feel like I was a good wife to him, carrying all the weight financially and at home because he said he felt too mentally unwell to do anything. I did not nag or yell at him and never denied him affection, though honestly he rarely wanted to touch me. A week after he was released, he left me, saying that life is short and he doesn't want to settle. My Phil says that a man would never leave a good woman and that I can only blame myself. He's now shacked up with a girl he met online. I can't shake the thought maybe I wasn't enough since he threw me away so easily. Dang, you'll read back on this and laugh at your post for ever doubting yourself and thinking you were never enough. Your ex-husband's a clown indeed. Next time he's in a ward, and his new girl drops him, block his number. Your Phil is totally wrong. Men leave good women all the time because they think they can find someone better. They rarely find someone better. This wasn't your fault at all. He made the choice to leave because he is a selfish fuck. You stayed because you're not. Let him be the selfish fuck that he is and find a good man who will treat you like their partner and not a doormat. Your husband's erratic, illogical decisions have nothing to do with you. He's not mentally sound, clearly, and no one can help him but himself. Time to move on to bigger and better. He's doing you a favor. I hope that girl cheat on him and ghost him. Don't worry, karma will get him soon. I guess assholeness is genetically passed down. Interesting. My Phil says that a man would never leave a good woman and that I can only blame myself. Your Phil is a poss, and it's apparent in one statement where your husband gets it from. Hoping you learn from this, and don't let yourself do everything in future relationships. You have nothing left to give, and he was free to spend all of his time screwing around because he didn't spend time and energy on your relationship, just on making excuses. How do I date, moving on after indirectly causing the death of my ex? If you don't already know, this is my throwaway account. I'm now 26 years old, and was in a relationship with my ex 8 years ago. I was 18, while she was 17 years old. I still vividly remember she dropped by my pre-university convocation ceremony. We then went on to having a lunch together with my classmates, family, and she left at night right after dinner. I was quite curious on why I hadn't got any messages, calls from her the next day, till I found out from the next day late evening, from her mom, that she got hit by a car on her way back home. She didn't make it. I was shocked, and felt like my life got ripped right out of my hands at that moment. We had lots of plans, we didn't know what the future holds, but we were sure that we wanted to have each other in our journey going forward. I cried and was in a rut, understatement of that fucking year. She passed away on the spot, in 2014. 8 years later, I thought I've moved on, but every single piece of her memory is still lingering within me. The late-night tea session that we had, the songs, her perfume, all of that stuff still hinders me from wanting to date this new lady that I've been eyeing on and briefly interacting with. She, current lady, works on the opposite end of my office, and I'd love to talk to her, but there's a couple of issues. How do I move on? Heck, 8 years later, those teenage romance memories are still there. I am basically comparing a perfect deceased person with an imperfect living person. It's just not fair. Secondly, this is just me being paranoid, I'm sure. But how do I forgive myself knowing that I caused her death? I bet my ex would still be here, alive, if she didn't get to be in relationship with me and didn't attend my convocation party. I half-jokingly told myself that if I have a time machine, I would have just broken up with her prior to the fucking convocation ceremony. This is still a work in progress, but I've met counselor from time to deal with the death, bereavement and stuffs. Would like to get some advice, thoughts. Thanks for your time. You need to go to actual therapy over this, not just a grief counselor every once in a while. Guilt and grief have controlled your thoughts for years and you're going to need help to unlearn this way of thinking. You go see a therapist. The only things people should blame themselves for are the actions they deliberately chose while knowing the likely outcome. For example, if you choose to drive while drunk, you know that you are more likely to cause a car accident and you can blame yourself for this if someone gets hurt or dies as a result. You did not do one single thing that day that you could have predicted would lead to the death of your girlfriend. You did not choose to take any excessive risk that caused the accident. You weren't even driving. You were just living your life and so was she, and a terrible thing happened. You have to find a way to honor her memory without holding onto this misplaced sense of blame. I mean, for one thing, you didn't cause her death, indirectly or otherwise. It was a terrible accident that happened while she was doing something totally normal, going somewhere. You should forgive yourself because there is nothing to forgive in this case. It's also okay to remember the good things and to feel your grief. Maybe you're having trouble moving on because you're grieving something that isn't real. You aren't grieving her death, which is a real tragedy. You're grieving that you killed her, which did not happen as it was an accident. It's harder to move on from something you yourself are constructing for your own reasons. You are responsible for precisely two things: intentional choices and negligent choices. This was neither. Now that we've handled the logical, go handle the emotional in therapy. None of us here is qualified to address that. Go on Instagram and look for brain buddies. The girl who started it, Emily Hartridge, was killed when the scooter she was riding near London at a roundabout she got thrown and was hit by a lorry. Her boyfriend Jacob had just given her that scooter as a gift. They were about to move in together. Emily was a wonderful, selfless and caring person that I wish to this day there were more of in the world. There are others like you having the same type of traumatic experience you endured. Reach out to these people. They can help. Sorry, I can't help more. My girlfriend is mad at me for refusing a handjob in the theater. About a week ago I, 22, went to the theater to see the new Doctor Strange movie with my group of friends. This film also had a special meaning for me because it represented Sam Raimi's return to directing, and he's an artist I admire very much. My girlfriend, 21, doesn't care about these movies at all. She has seen hardly any, and those few times I tried to show her one she either fell asleep or stopped following the story halfway. And that's fine for me, because I think everyone has their own passions and should cultivate them without forcing the partner to do the same, if she doesn't care. Anyways, as she was supposed to go out to dinner with her friends, but the evening was cancelled, she wanted to come to the cinema with us. And so far everything is fine. The problem started when the lights went out. First, since she doesn't know anything about the MCU and these characters, in the first 30 minutes she filled me with questions about what the heck was going on in the film. But that didn't bother me. Then she started using the phone with the screen brightness on maximum and the ringer on, and this bothered me, because it distracted me from following the film well. But I've been patient. The real problem is that in the middle of the film she tells me that she is bored and wants to go out. But I tell her that I have no intention of doing so, but that obviously if she wants to go home for me there is no problem. After a few minutes I feel something pressing on the zip of my pants, and I realize it's her hand. Under normal conditions I assure you that I would never refuse a handjob, but at that moment I was very irritated by her and just wanted to follow the film in peace. I've been waiting 9 years to see a new Raimi movie in theaters, and I don't know when it will happen again, so let me enjoy it. I told her that there is a time and a place for everything, but this was neither the time nor the right place. At the end of the film she was very pissed off and didn't talk to me for hours. Then she said that, men don't usually take girls to the cinema for the purpose of watching movies, and that she found it silly that we clapped during the best moments of the film and that we had even stood up to applaud in a special scene. She hasn't wanted to have sex with me for a week, because she says I should apologize for the way I behaved. But honestly, I don't think I've done anything wrong, and indeed, I think she should apologize to me. What do you guys think about it? Being on her phone during the movie is super disrespectful to everyone in the theater. She sounds really immature. She knew how much you were looking forward to this and she didn't care. At all. OPLS, tell her to grow up. Men don't usually take girls to the cinema for the purpose of watching movies. WTF is this lol? Of course they do. Not every guy wants to do sexual acts in a public setting. She needs to grow up. She found it silly that we clapped during the best moments of the film and that we had even stood up to applaud in a special scene. She has a point about this one though. Hate people that do that when I go to watch a movie. Like you, some of us just want to watch a movie in peace. Honestly, I'd dump her. You're dating a child. Wasn't she worried your group of friends saw her give you a HJ in the cinema? They were right there? WTF, she totally disrespected consent. Sounds like everything has to be about her. If this is a boundary she doesn't understand, I would seriously think if you have a future together. Not wanting to have sex is valid, no matter what the reason on your part and also on hers. But using it as a manipulation mechanism is toxic AF.